luck. It's one of the stats you don't really see anyone talk about. But what if I told you that the luck stat is a lot better than you would have thought? Oh, you don't believe me? Well, don't worry, because today we'll be beating the game by only leveling luck. So the rules are, only level luck. It's about as simple as it gets. Before we start though, I just want to say a quick thanks to you guys for helping me hit over 100 subscribers. Your support is really appreciated. Anyways, back to the video. So I named my character Akari because gambling is cool, and picked a deprived class to have a more baseline experience. Also because I think it's funny that I look like a caveman. And after a whap bap boom alakazam, we defeat Idug's Gundyr. I then went ahead and did the tree skip so I can grab the coveted Super Serpent Ring, so I can level up luck faster. And finally use the Firekeeper to put my first 4 points into luck. So, the main purpose of the luck stat is to boost your item discovery, with it also giving good curse resistance and also helping with bleed buildup? I guess, bro. Anyways, enough on that. Let's move on to the High Wall of Lothric. Luckily, I was fortunate enough to have an easier time here. I just ran around like a drunk hobo who just lost all his money gambling at the casino. Totally worth it, by the way. And after grabbing some essentials, I went ahead and fought Vort of the Boreal Valley. And this fight will be easy. You'd think I'd be good enough to not let this happen, but I guess not. Anyways, the boss is pretty easy. Stay close to him in his first phase so he whiffs most of his attacks, and in his second phase, stay behind him and watch out for his swings. And with enough hits to Vort's Gluteus Maximus, he doesn't last for too long. After making my luck legal, I showed the grandma my hobo bod, and she was so impressed with it, she even gave me a banner. Nice! You know, a cool thing I noticed at the start of the Undead Settlement, you can actually see the giant shooting his bow in the background. I thought that was pretty neat. Now the thing that we need that will really kick this run into high gear is right in the next area. So to prepare for that, I run around grabbing some goodies in the area. I then killed the demon with the Onion Knight, not because I'm actually going to go through with his questline, but because it's a cardinal sin to not engage in glorious combat with my favorite Onion Bro. And also, you must sit down and have a drink with them. It's like not talking to Elderbug at the start of Hollow Knight. I then ran by the Evangelist. I finally made it past them and grabbed the Flynn's ring for extra damage and the Chloranthy ring for extra stamina recovery. And now we can finally make our way to the Road of Sacrifice. Oh, hello, Henri. You have something I want, and I'll do anything to get it. Wow. Guess she really doesn't want to part with it, huh? So our damage is... So fighting straight up is not a good idea. And I really don't feel like playing Ring Around the Rosie for like 10 minutes. Luckily, there's something else we can actually do. Even though NPCs that are aggroed onto you won't get targeted by enemies, they still take damage from them. So all we have to do is lead them both or just Henri over and ask for some help from my dear friend Mr. Krabs.
I like money.
And he was happy to oblige, after I told him about all the treasure Henri had. But if between you and me, I'm planning to take all the treasure for myself. Shh. And after a couple of attempts of me dying in the crossfire, we finally kill Henri, and we can get what we came here for. Henri's Straight Sword, the weapon that will carry us through the rest of this run. Now at first it does look like your average straight sword, but this one has a special property. It scales with luck. And yes, I know you can use the Hollow Infusion to get the luck scaling, but this seems more in theme. So enjoy the weapon showcase. I then grabbed the Grass Crest Shield for extra stamina recovery, and grabbed my favorite, the Fallen Knight set. I then went back to Fire Lake Shrine, and quickly realized that Henri's Straight Sword upgrades with Twinkling Titanite? Oh yeah, cool. Guess all the Titanite shards I collected were for nothing. Great! I'm not really too knowledgeable on all the Twinkling Titanite locations, so I'll be asking the wiki for most of them. I do know there's one in Pharaon Keep, so I'll go there first. You know what's funny? It's the fact that this area sucks so much on the first playthrough, but if you know where to go, you can get done with this area in like 2 seconds. It's like in DS1 where you can get the Master Key to completely skip Blight Town. Anyways, I climb up the ladder and kill the Titanite lizard for my first Twinkling Titanite, and use it to make my Ornery Straight Sword +1. And who better to test the power of my sword other than the Stone Demon? And he was an absolute victim. Thanks to the fast attacks of my Straight Sword, we absolutely shred through this guy's health, and there's little he can do to stop us. He was getting beat so bad that he unlocked a special power that allowed him to levitate from his lower half. Wait, what? Anyways, he soon falls. I then used the souls to increase my luck to 27 and decided to go fight the Crystal Sage next, since there are plenty of Twinkling Titanite behind this boss. Luckily, since our sword does physical damage, and the fact that the Crystal Sage was born with glass bones and paper skin, we can easily shred this boss with our consecutive attacks. And even when she pulls out her clones, things don't get much better for him, since they might as well be mobile props with how much they contribute to the fight. And one finishing blow later and we can move on! I then killed 2 Titanite lizards for their Twinkling Titanite and immediately used them to make my Ornery Straight Sword +2. And then proceeded to kill 2 more Titanite lizards in the back alley of the chapel. I then go inside the Cathedral of the Deep, got hit by a giant I really shouldn't have, and ran straight towards the Deacons of the Deep. Man, I swear, these guys feel like a coin flip of whether it's going to be the easiest boss or an absolute nightmare to beat. Luckily I landed on heads for this run, since our Straight Sword allows us to easily cut the Deacons down, and once the Pontiff comes out, I give him a quick backstab to the rear, and a couple of hits later and we take him down. You know what? I'm feeling a little silly. How about we spice it up a bit? Granny. Now in Lothar Castle lies a good chunk of Twinkling Titanite, enough to get us close to +4. The only problem is that we have to go through the Dancer, which shouldn't be too bad, right? It was that bad. This boss absolutely rocked me. But man, I just can't put my finger on why this boss was so difficult. You know, through all these attempts, nothing obvious really just pops out at me, you know? And you'd think through all these attempts, any sane person would probably just cut their losses and go fight Abyss Watchers. But at this moment, I've sunk way too much time into this boss, so we ball. Anyways, the way I beat this fight was just by playing really safe. More so in his second phase. Cause if his sword so much as grazes me, I die. So I would usually just go in for a hit or two and back off until his next opening. Now is that cowardly? Yes. But spend enough time on a boss and you start getting real complacent about how you beat them. Now that we're in Lothar Castle, I can now start getting the last few Twinkling Titanite that I need to upgrade the Straight Sword. Which is, easier said than done. Yeah, who would have thought that going into a late game area with early game health would lead to a very bad time, huh? Man, these Ethereal Knights are horrendous to fight. They always leave me feeling cold. Yeah, puns weren't always my strong suit. I then went ahead and collected all the Twinkling Titanite, and hey, since I'm in the area, might as well go take out the Dragon Slayer armor. Now this fight was honestly pretty easy. Maybe it's just because of the amount of experience I have with this fight, but I feel like once you understand his moveset, you quickly realize that this guy is the most exploitable boss in the game. He has extremely telegraphed and easy to dodge attacks, not to mention some of those attacks can just straight up whiff, and a lot of his showstopper attacks get countered by you just moving behind him, and a lot of them leave him open for huge counterattacks. So as long as you stay on your toes, you should have no problem with this fight. Oh yeah, I forgot about his laser. Anyways, let's move on. I then used the souls I got to upgrade luck to 53. Now we are still 3 Twinkling Titanite short to get a +4 weapon, but luckily, there is a way to get the 3 we need right in the Firelink Shrine. If you buy the Prism Stone and the large leather shield from the Shrine Handmaid, you can exchange them with Pugsley for 1 Twinkling Titanite each. And after killing 1 more Titanite lizard in the backyard, we upgrade Ornery Straight Sword to +4. And you know what? Might as well go all the way. There's actually a Titanite slab I can get, I just have to go into the DLC to get it. So after agreeing to touch a homeless man's weird rag, we make it to the Painted World. In one quick trip down the ladder, and the screams of the tree lady silence, I go up a weirdly long ladder and grab the Titanite slab. And just like that, +5. And now I think we're finally prepared enough to go fight the Abyss Watchers. Jesus Christ! 2 hits and we do pretty much half his health. Dang, we're even able to kill him before his clones show up. Maybe second phase will be different. Yeah, no. I don't know what I was expecting. So just a couple of slashes and a backstab later, and the first Lord of Cinder has fallen. Man, who would have thought that waiting to do an early game boss until after you had a +5 weapon would make them into even more of a joke, huh? Anyways, time for the Bone Zone. I killed a skeleton with a funny hat, and after bridge trapping some skeletons, I fight Wolnir. 1 ring, 2 ring, 3 ring, I then went down the ladder and went to the smoldering lake. And just look at this! Our weapon is so strong, we can reliably kill the worm even without the ballista. Dang. And next on my list of victims is the Old Demon King. What, 310 damage per swing? God, is this what Doom fans feel like playing their game? Like, the whole fight lasted for less than a minute. There was nothing he could really do. We do way too much damage way too fast. I mean, we're even able to kill him before he's able to do his explosion. Guys, I promise this is still a challenge run. Technically. I then used the soul to get my luck to 60 and made my way to Ithril of the Boreal Valley. Hey, bad dog, sit! I said sit! Now play dead. Good boy. You know, dogs being the most annoying enemy to deal with will always be a constant in every FromSoft game. But you know who isn't a dog? Pontiff Sullivan. Yeah, gotta be one of my best transitions yet. Now Pontiff would usually be a nightmare for a run like this. His fast attacks and quick combos combined with my low health leads to a not very good time. Luckily, I know his weakness. Parrying. So all you have to do is hit him with the parry. Which is easier said than done. Like, really easier said than done. Like, Jesus, am I washed? I swear this guy was not that hard before. Finally, got it. Took me long enough. The rest of the fight is pretty straightforward. We're able to get a bunch of damage when he's summoning his clone. And one more clone summon later, and we can move on. And Orlando. Wow, I can't believe DS1 stole from DS3 almost 5 years before. Whoa, 3 item drops from 1 enemy? Huh, maybe the luck stat is finally starting to kick in. And now it's time for Aldridge, Devourer of Gods. And the first few attempts didn't go too well. Again, I can't possibly understand why. But other than that, the fight is pretty simple. I just stay close to him trying to bait out his melee attacks, and then run to the opposite side to catch his teleport. I even use a tech where you hide under the little ledge to dodge his phase 2 arrow attack. Thanks, Backlogs! And even though he did kill me, with my dying breath, I was able to get one last hit on him, ending the fight. And that's another Lord Soul. I then used the souls I got from the fight to upgrade luck to 66, and then went straight to Ithril Dungeon. Man, this area always sucks to go through. At least one of the jailers gave me a complimentary robe. Anyways, after getting snacked on by a mimic, we make it to the profane capital. Oh no! A giant! There's no way I can beat him! The only way I can win is if I had a sword that channeled the storm! How lucky! The sword that channels the only weakness of a giant just happens to be sitting in a room with a giant! How convenient! Now all I have to do is destroy this guy. Not a word. Anyways, a couple more swings, and that's our 3rd Lord Soul.
Unkindled one.
Wait, what? I thought you were dead. The Consumed King's Garden. Home to whatever the hell that is, and small gremlins. You know what it's also home to? Schizophrenic half-dragon people. Really brings the whole area together. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was super worried about this. Osiris is notorious for being pretty difficult on low health runs, and at first, my worries were warranted. Our damage is a little less than what I was expecting, and we have to be careful because 1 or 2 hits and we're down for the count. But once I got the phase 2, I completely fluked it. my main strategy was just to stay close to him so I can go under his charge and bait out his tail spins. And these moves leave him open for a lot of damage. And a couple more swings and he goes down. I then made my luck 69. Nice. And then showed a magician the true strength of overwhelming luck. And oh, if it isn't my favorite parry victim. And parry victim he was. I mean, he could barely do any attack without being put back on the ground. I mean, I know this happens to him on most runs through this game, but it's still crazy how much this boss gets trivialized if you even have the smallest semblance of timing. Well, better luck next time, man. I then grabbed the eyes of the Firekeeper and gave it to her at Firelink Shrine. You know, you can make me a very lucky man, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Something something magic area, and we're off to go and fight Lothric and Lorien. And yeah, this is where my low health pool really started to aggravate me. Really doesn't help how he has an instant teleport attack that caught me off guard a lot more times than I'd like to admit. Guys, I swear I'm good at this game. And combined the fact that I was playing super aggressive caused me to have a lot of stupid deaths. Several attempts later, I finally realized I probably shouldn't be recklessly swinging my weapon like a baboon and actually have some thought behind my attacks. So I decided to only hit him 2 or 3 times per combo, which leads us to Phase 2, which wasn't that difficult. Second phase is basically just first phase with some added magic attacks, so a lot of the stuff just carries over. So just lock in on his attacks and make sure not to get one-shot by some magic attacks. And a couple of attempts later and the twin princes go down. And that's all the Lord Souls. I then upgraded my luck to 75 and then immediately realized that I forgot about the Curse Rod in Greatwood, so let's go deal with them now. I have nothing to really say on this fight. I mean, we're fighting a boss that's in the second area of the game with a maxed out weapon. It kinda speaks for itself. I then head to the Profane Capital, something something where Dark Souls transition, and we're in Archdragon Peak. And oh, looks like my first dragon victim is here. Luckily, it seems he has an allergic reaction to sharp objects going in his brain. I then ran through the rest of the area, rang the bell, and now it's time for the Nameless King. And funnily enough, the King of Stormface felt harder than the actual Nameless King fight. And that's mainly because of the boss's terrible lock-on. Like, there would be so many times that I'd be locked onto the dragon, and then he would move in a way that completely blinds me to what the Nameless King is going to do, which would usually lead to me getting my skull caved in. And that's not even including the amount of times it made me whiff my attack. But as long as I just played the fight more carefully and made sure not to completely rely on lock-on, we're able to get the stagger and move on to next phase. And like I said before, Nameless King was pretty easy. Now, I'm not saying there weren't any difficulties. I mean, we are well past the point of bosses one-shotting us with a passing glare. But honestly, his moveset is pretty simple, with him only really having 2 or 3 sword swings in a combo. So as long as I only limit myself to only 1 or 2 sword swings after an attack, it's basically impossible for the boss to catch me off guard. And with you being able to get extra damage when he's charging his lightning attack, we're able to get the stagger and take him down. And with that, we're finished with the base game, and the true challenge can begin now. I then got my luck to 82 and went straight to the champion Gravetender, who was pretty easy. We can easily stun lock him with our sword, allowing us to do a ton of damage. And while the wolf was a little bit more scary, with the fact that she has plenty of ways to combo us for all of our health, but as long as we stay focused, we can put the dog down. I then went down the slide, talked to a weird bird guy, got shown why fighting NPCs with low health sucks, and then ran through the back half of the area to pull the lever. And now it's time for Sister Frida. And honestly, doing this boss on this challenge run has really been an eye-opening experience, and made me realize I really don't know this fight. Like, obviously I'm not god-awful at it, I do have over hundreds of hours on this game, but you don't realize how much forgiveness the game gives you for having a health bar, which isn't a luxury I have on this run. Now, first phase wasn't too bad. I just make sure not to get comboed by her scythe attacks and get my backstabs in whenever she teleports. Honestly, second phase was the hardest part of the fight, and that's mainly because Sister Frida's ice attack is a clean one-shot. So the main game of the phase is to get Father Arundel on his own, while also keeping tabs on Sister Frida when she uses her ice moves, which is a lot harder than it sounds. I'm not joking, I spent way too long here. But after a couple of attempts, I was able to get Father Arundel into a corner and pummeled him until he dies. And for the third phase, I'm not gonna lie, how I got through this phase was by playing really passively. I'm talking, I would not go in for an attack unless I knew for absolute certainty that I would get away with it. Now you may call that playing like a coward, I call it not wanting to spend another 4 hours on this boss. So a couple of attempts later, and she goes down. I then made my way to the Dread Keep and grabbed the Ring of Steel Protection +3 for extra defense. And after dodging some lasers and getting whipped by a lady, we finally make it to the Twin Demons. And this fight ended up being a lot less scary than I would have thought. Which is funny because I remember doing an SL1 run of this game before doing YouTube, and I got absolutely stuck on this fight. I never actually ended up completing the run. But probably thanks to us being able to level up a stat, even if it's luck, and having a weapon that scales off that stat, allows us to do pretty good damage. Especially when you take into account how fast we swing our weapon, allowing me to easily kill the demon in pain and let me turn the demon in below into the Demon Prince. Which wasn't much harder, just gotta pay attention to his melee attacks and projectiles. And you can even stay under him to make him whiff most of his attacks. And a few slashes later, and the demon has been vanquished. I then raised a banner and went to the Ring City, and ran through the area, up the tower, and mercilessly nicked at Medira's toes until he fell. Don't worry, I'll be back for you later. I then grabbed the Chloranthy Ring +3 for even more stamina recovery, and after thanking God for door iframes, we fight Half-Light. Okay, we fight Half-Life. Are you kidding me? We fight oh, come on! Finally. Honestly, this fight was pretty boring. Other than the painting guardians, this fight really boils down to us just running around waiting for moments where we can get the occasional sword dash attack in. Again and again. And waiting for him to get to his bow phase where we can actually get substantial damage on him. So after 5 minutes of Ring Around the Rosie, he goes down. And now it's time for Medira. And contrary to what a lot of you guys are expecting, he wasn't that difficult. Like at all. And I'll even go a little further and say, Medira as a boss is just not as difficult as people like to hype him up as. Maybe it's because the DS3 bosses got absolutely power crept by the Elden Ring DLC, but once you understand Medira's moveset, you start to realize just how simple it really is. And if you have first phase figured out, then you pretty much have second phase figured out as well. Guess my luck really is starting to kick in. Alright, now we only have 2 bosses left, but there's one more thing I have to do before I finish the DLC. I popped a bunch of boss and normal souls, and finally pushed my luck to 99. If we're gonna finish this run, then we're gonna need to be the luckiest man alive. Let's do this. I ran up the stairs, touched Philionor's egg, and got sent to the end of the world for our final challenge, Gale. Gale. Easily my favorite of the DS3 bosses. Just a simple dude in armor fight, with nothing overcomplicating it. No annoying magic attacks, fair combos that aren't just guaranteed damage, actually fair hitboxes, a second phase that doesn't make me go blind, and a fight that actually brings thematic closure to its respective story, and isn't just a cheap way to bring up an old character's corpse whose story was already finished in the base game and make him worse. Oh, and imagine instead of being able to bring the blood of the Dark Souls to the painter, putting a nice little bow on the end of the DLC, you instead got a half-baked cutscene that just reiterates what's already been said for the 20th time. Wouldn't that just suck? Wait, what boss were we on again? Gale? Oh, well, he was pretty simple. It's really just a war of attrition. Gale goes down. And just like that, only one boss left. Let's show this guy how much luck can carry you in Dark Souls. I put all the lords on their thrones and went to the Kiln of the First Flame. and fought the Soul of Cinder. And he was... yeah. Remember what I said about Sister Frieda? Yeah, the exact same thing can be said about this boss as well. And that's mostly because on most runs, he dies so quickly that his moveset was never really a problem. But now since I have the health bar size of a toothpick, I have to actually start paying attention to what he does. His sword phase can be a little tricky, with his weird windups and tricky timings. But once I get that down, I just use the spear and magic phase for free damage, which gets us to the next phase. And the rest of the fight is basically free. Just gotta watch out for his lightning and sword attacks, and with our skill and extraordinary luck, we finally beat the Lord of Cinder. And that was Dark Souls 3, beaten while only leveling luck. A nice and easy run, and a needed break from the absolute gauntlet that was my last run. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching till the end of the video. I really appreciate it. And if you like this one, click the card on screen to watch one of my other videos. I promise it'll be just as good as this one. And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And finally, have a great day!